Welcome to Lacey's Lineup. I've been doing this on audio for the past 6 weeks, and it has been so fun. If you haven't followed me, you can still, all my episodes are on Spotify and Facebook. And so look for your girl, she's on Lacey's Lineup. But your girl did a thing and she started video. So this is our first ever video podcast where we break down everything that happens in the NFL. To help me today, I brought my brother onto the show, and he's going to help break down everything that happened in the NFL in week 6. So welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, good to be back, especially for the first video recording. Exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I appreciate you doing this with me. But if you can't tell, I'm repping CD Lam because he had a great game. But let's go right into Monday Night Football. Cowboys in a must-win situation, and it wasn't pretty. There was tons of penalties, but Dak showed that he had enough, the defense too, but must-win Cowboys game. Do you think the Cowboys are turning things around, or was this just a sacrifice game?
I don't know if it was a sacrifice game. I think it was a big game for them. And it was an even bigger game for Dak Prescott. And I'll say that his performance looked like it was going straight downhill. Basically, the Cowboys looked like they were going straight downhill as of last week against San Francisco. But this week made a statement for him. It definitely was a must-win game. You don't want to lose this one and go down to 50%. You want to make sure that you stay in contention, get over your past failures, basically, and just get back in the game. Yeah, I thought this was a good game. It wasn't the most glamorous game you've ever seen. It wasn't very exciting if you were just looking for action or anything. It was a very steady pace game. But the Cowboys still executed and got it done. I will say that Dak Prescott looked a lot better, and a big component of that is he used his feet. When Dak is allowed to be a running threat, that's what started his career so well. It pulls the defense out. It keeps the pressure out of the pocket. They have to respect that run because Dak's a big guy. When he comes with all that steam coming through the line, he's going to get some yardage. You have to respect that. He's took a while to get back in that groove, especially since he had that bad compound fracture injury. I know that kind of put him back trying to be more of a pocket passer. But in seeing him run again, it was like, wow, Dak's back. And then he even had the great pass at the end. So absolutely, it was a great win for the Cowboys. They needed it. It was a good moral victory for Dak Prescott as well.
Dak using his legs, that has to happen. He has to become a mobile quarterback. Our offensive line is banged up right now. There's pressure coming fast, but every time he would roll out on Monday night, he was finding guys wide open. And that huge 7 rushes for 40 yards, one of those being a touchdown rush. And you saw it. It was almost like Dak read the defense. I think the original play call was to Pollard, and he saw it and kept it, and it resulted in a touchdown. So do we think Dak will continue to use his legs moving forward?
He better. That's all I'm going to say is he better. I mean, we obviously saw a new dynamic for it. It's exciting. It opens up the offense, and it's a better version of Dak. So absolutely, he better use his feet.
Yeah, but I talked about my boy CD Lam. He had a great game. We found him a lot. He had over 100 yards, which is great. But welcome to the team, Brandon Cooks. I mean, what a performance. He was a great pickup in the offseason. He's showed that he is that impact player, and we haven't found him in the first 5 weeks. But he came in big. He got huge first down catches, and that touchdown that really sealed the game right there.
Oh, yeah. You couldn't deny the effort that Cooks put in. That was awesome. He played a great game. CD Lamb was still upset from the loss last week, as most of the Cowboys probably were. But CD showed it. He toughed it out. He put a good game on. He played. He got his opportunities for one, but he played very strong. But Cooks, wow. I mean, he was out there to play. He was one of the more exciting ones to watch, especially on the offense. But it's awesome having them both in the backfield or, in the secondary. Basically, it's a dual threat. It'll pull coverage off Lamb if Cooks is playing that well. Vice versa, if Lamb's getting double covered, you got Cooks, throw it up there. And then why not? You got Gallup in the mix. I mean, the weapons are actually being displayed now. So all-around effort. And I've got to say, too, for the defense, to add on, Bland, great replacement for Diggs. I mean, that was a big scare at first, but, I had a feeling Bland would come in. And, man, he's been an impact player in the last few games. Great performances there. Marquis Bell, wow. Lawrence, and everyone stepped up. The defense found stride. Cook's great game. It was a really good effort all around by the Cowboys.
Even though they didn't have the sack stats on everything, Herbert was under pressure for a lot of this game. Especially I know he has the hand injury, but that's where you capitalize on it. They were allowed to apply pressure and he couldn't get a good ball out. And of course, Micah Parsons coming through at the end with his lion tackle that we've been waiting to see for a couple of weeks, but that was just game time right there. But like you said, Bland is great. Losing Van Der Esch last week, I do like Van Der Esch as a player, but I was excited to see Marquis Bell get more touches. And man, did he prove that he belongs out there with that defense.
I totally agree. And as I stated, I mean, he had a great football game. And, he was a big contributor to that defensive effort that did shut down Herbert's passing attack. And, you go into the Chargers too. I mean, Herbert also is down a receiver. Mike Williams has been out for a while now too. So Keenan Allen doesn't have the coverage being drawn off of him, but he doesn't even have time to decipher, because if not, you've got Bell or Parsons or even definitely Lawrence in his face. I mean, you put those together, I mean, that's going to be a tough one to pull out. So
yeah, Lawrence knocking that ball down. I mean, with that blocker out in front, that could have been a scoring drive.
It was huge. Absolutely huge.
But they did it. I mean, don't take it away. Chargers are a good team. I know they lost Mike Williams, but Keenan Allen is a huge player. And you could tell that the injury to Herbert did affect his game. He missed a wide open Keenan Allen twice. That was like blown coverage and was scary. Yep. But I think that came from the pressure, though, that he was being applied to him. So it wasn't all just on the injury. Penalties are big, though. Penalties are something that we got to overcome. And it was on both sides of the ball. I think the refs called it a little too tight at times. And, it's like, come on, just let them play. But before we move on from this, though, the last thing is Mike McCarthy playing conservatively going into the first half, taking a timeout into halftime, not going for that shot in the end zone to try to go up a touchdown, and just ultimately kicking the field goal at 3 points. Do you think that was the right decision?
I don't think that was the right decision, and I can't even understand the decision. When you have two timeouts, you're in the red zone, and you've got 8 seconds. That is plenty enough time to call the O-zone play, which is basically just throw the ball in the end zone. It doesn't take that much time off. You have another timeout. You can still set up for your field goal without having to worry about anything. Give your team the chance. That would have been a big touchdown right there, and that could have gave us even more momentum. Ultimately, we made the field goal.
You're not going to get the ball at halftime, right?
Exactly. So, and I even saw McCarthy had even said that he thought about it, but the reason was he was just like, oh, there's been some penalties and things going on. He never said it was lack of faith. He just made a call. But the only thing I can think of is did you not have faith in Prescott at the time? Your top high-paid quarterback in the red zone. I mean, nothing else makes sense. Why not take that shot? Even Jerry Jones was interviewed, and he even said he would have liked to see us go and take that shot. So there's really no excuse. Either he didn't have faith in his team, or he just completely forgot about clock management, because he told the ref to let it go down to 3 seconds.
Right.
There's your opportunity. It's gone.
Yeah, because as fans watching the game, you see the timeout at 8, and we're all thinking we're going to get one shot at the end zone. Then it comes back from commercial, and it's now at 3 seconds, and we're kicking a field goal. Even the commentators, I think Troy Aikman was like, I don't know what's going on. When I get an answer, I'll let you know.
Yeah, no one did.
But conservative play, which ultimately taking those 3 points was the difference in this game. So people can argue that is what did it. But we left 10 points off the board, and moving forward, especially into the playoffs, we can't play that conservatively and think that we're going to win those games.
No, we can't.
But hey, going into the bye week, we are 4-2, not 3-3, which is a huge difference. And now we can sit back and relax and then just regroup, get people healthy, and be ready to play the Rams in 2 weeks. So overall, happy the Cowboys survived. And let's just move on and build from that.
Absolutely.
But some teams that were not as lucky this weekend, which as Cowboy fans, because we both are, we were happy to see the unbeaten teams fall. So there is no more unbeaten teams left in the NFL. But let's start with the 49ers falling to a Deshaun-less No Watson, Browns on any given Sunday, 17-19. What happened in that game?
I'm going to go ahead and state the biggest thing that happened in that game. We all now know Brock Purdy is human.
Right?
We got to see a different side of him that we haven't been exposed to yet. I mean, he's coming out playing like a supernatural force for a while. Like nothing could go wrong. I mean, credit to him. It looked good. This game did not look good for him. He had the injuries. You had McCaffrey going out big. You had Deebo Samuel going out big. You even have Trent Williams, left tackle, going out. That's big. But there was a lot of opportunities that he had. Ayuk was playing good. He when he made, we connected with him, they worked, but he missed him a few times. And then, just all sorts of just bad timing. He was consistently inaccurate the whole time. It just wasn't a good game from him. But the fun thing is with all that, they still had so many opportunities to win that game, even down to the final field goal. So regardless of Brock having probably his worst outing that we've all seen, they still had it. So it was a circus of a game. But credit to the Browns defense. I don't want to leave that out. The Browns put up a great game. They played it the way they needed to win against San Francisco. But yeah, a lot of opportunities left on the field from the San Francisco offense for sure.
Yeah, because I was talking to some of my San Francisco friends, and I know, believe me, we argue with the refs every week when it comes to the Cowboys on questionable calls. And there was a lot. It was raining. But I've talked about this in my podcast. Purdy is surrounded by, I feel like, unlimited weapons. I mean, they have a strong offensive line. He's got Deebo, McCaffrey is his favorite player, which rightfully so. And then you have an Ayuk. I mean, he just literally can check down and he has weapons in every check down. But I was always like, when something goes wrong and he loses those weapons, can he be the elite quarterback that they've had him placed on this pedestal to be? And it proved that he's not. Whether you can't make that an excuse, his McCaffrey and Deebo, yes, it's hard, especially when you lose them within the game, so you don't have a game plan when they go out. But he looked, for the first time, pressure. I think he threw an interception, and it just looked jumbled. And he, for the first time, looked rattled. Like you said, yep. Human.
He's human. He's not there yet as far as being the elite quarterback that can just walk in and save the game and make things happen. Can he be there? I think absolutely he has the potential to. He just still needs some work and experience there.
Yeah, but you can't, even that, they still, like you said, had opportunities to win this game. I mean, even the Browns missed a field goal, and it was just the penalties. I mean, don't take away anything from the Browns. Kareem Hunt has came in and did a great job. PJ Walker, he had 2 interceptions, which the 49ers didn't capitalize on. But overall, the defense is what won that game. I mean, the Browns defense are looking very strong.
And don't count out Myles Garrett either. All that pressure that they had. And when Williams went out, Williams is the one that was protecting Purdy. When 49ers lost Williams, then he got broke loose. So, yeah, big hats off to the Cleveland defense. Like I said, they stayed in it, and they did everything they needed to win that game. Their offense can improve. It's not bad. It's just not as potent as what San Francisco's can be. But yeah, absolutely, their defense is what puts them on the map.
But shout out to former Cowboy player Randy Gregory being traded to the 49ers, and he was very effective. I know he only had 1 sack that was visible, but he was in every play. So I don't know how the 49ers keep getting these steals of players like the McCaffrey deal. I mean, it's just crazy how, and you would think that Denver, as struggling as they are, why they would let a player go for little to nothing. And he's impactful right from the get-go.
Absolutely. That was a good point. So Randy Gregory comes in his debut game from Denver, which, to your point, I don't know how San Francisco does this. They got him for next to nothing. I mean, where do they get their recruiting from? I need to look him up because that's amazing. But his debut game since being acquired from the Broncos, he comes in, had 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 pressures. So let's just go back. Drake Jackson, he did great in week 1. But from week 2 through now, he hasn't been getting the job done. In just this one game, his debut game, Randy Gregory has already done more than what Jackson has done in weeks 2 through now. So great acquisition. You can't let that be ignored. So San Francisco, they know how to do it when it comes to acquiring talent.
Yeah, it's crazy. We let him go. Amari Cooper, I'm still bitter about that trade because even at his age, he is performing
And he
like
had a great game too.
excelling. Yeah,
Yeah.
great game. I mean, his catch, he didn't even have a lot of targets, but when he did the run after the catch, and he's just a powerful player. But 49ers are out. Do I think that they're struggling? No, it depends on how serious these injuries are with McCaffrey and Debo. I mean, if they could get one back, they're still good. But if they're without two for a couple of weeks, you could see a slight dip in them. But am I worried about them being in the postseason? No. Shanahan is too big of a mastermind. He knows how to move people around and he'll get it figured out. But they do have Vikings next Sunday night. So it'll be interesting to see. I know Vikings are hot and cold. They're without Jefferson now, which is a big thing for the upcoming. But I still think it's going to be interesting if those two players aren't healthy, which there's been rumors that they could come back, but I don't know if that's Shanahan just trying to disguise it for as long as possible. But do you think Vikings have a chance of beating them this week?
Oh, absolutely, I do. I mean, you look at everything that happened this week. I mean, it was upset weekend, but that's the NFL. It's every single week. You have to go play as if you're playing a playoff game, basically, because you cannot downsize your team to the level of what you expect the other team to perform at, because the other team wants it more too. And Minnesota has some momentum. They got to win without Jefferson. So, I mean, that's
Kirk
pretty
Cousins
big.
is playing for his life.
Absolutely. So, they got nothing to lose. They've only got everything to gain. They're not going to go in and just let San Francisco waltz over them just because they feel like they're the best team on paper. Absolutely not. So, yeah, this is going to be a good game. Minnesota's going to give it all they have, and San Francisco better be mentally prepared for this. Purdy better get ready and in the zone. They have to perform as a unit, and they cannot take it lightly.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm glad the Cowboys are at home resting with the win already under them, and we can just watch and see what happens with them. But let's move on to my probably favorite loss of the weekend, and that comes to the Eagles and Jets. Eagles lose 20-14. Jalen Hurts, another one they've put so high on the pedestal, and man, did he have a bad game. 3 interceptions.
This is definitely one of Hurts, if not the worst of worst game he's had in an Eagles uniform. So nothing clicked for him. It didn't get better. And the thing that I noticed the most was that his decision making got worse with each of his 3 interceptions. He didn't learn from anything. It got worse. It shut down.
Panic.
He did panic. And, that last one, like on third down, like he just stared Dallas Goedert straight down until he delivered. I mean, just the entire time. You might as well have just had one of those planes with the banners going, hey, I'm going to throw it to Dallas Goedert right now. And the defense caught that sign. I mean, you can't do that stuff. You can't forget your fundamentals. You've got to be able to look off the coverage. When you're staring the receiver straight from the snap, you won't do that.
You look at it too. I mean, he felt the pressure all night. He just was not in his element. I mean, every time he looked at his feet, because I've started learning to watch the quarterback feet a lot more to kind of see where they go. He was parallel to the scrimmage line. And that's just not how you throw the football. Everything he was back on his heels, and he just couldn't get a consistency. Now, was that the pressure from New York Jets? I think so. I mean, the Jets defense has always been talked about. They kind of, I think, had the wind taken out of them when their leader of Aaron Rodgers left them. But I mean, not to side note, but Aaron Rodgers now throwing on the sideline, I think is giving Jets hope that maybe he can return at the end of the season. So let's play for him. But they were without Sauce Gardner. They didn't even have their best defender in there, and defense just came alive. And I mean, that's why you say any given Sunday. No credit away from the Jets defense, but I think the Eagles just looked like a hot mess. And I said this. I did say this. I said, Eagles have been looking ugly from the beginning, but they found a way to win. And I knew it was going to catch up to them eventually. And this past week, it finally came to head, and it kind of exposed where they're struggling in areas right now.
It sure did. And it wasn't even just Hurts. I mean, Hurts was a big factor for the Eagles, the way they performed, but it was just missed opportunities all over the place. I mean, that just completely killed their offensive momentum. So Swift, he failed to get into any rhythm at all. He only had 18 rush yards on 10 carries. Okay, so your ground game's not established at Philadelphia. And then I got to say, Smith's brutal drop, that 1st and 15, he was wide open. You can't ask for better. That's not going to help you win. So, and then, oh, by the way, on top of it, you have a kicker, Elliott, who comes in and misses a 37-yard field goal in the third. So,
he's money normally.
Yeah, absolutely. So nothing went right. So many missed opportunities. I mean, it was just like they were begging to lose that game. If it wasn't for their defense, though, they wouldn't have had a prayer in this one because the offense was just all over the place. Defense actually held them in. This game would have been put way out of hand way earlier if it wasn't for the level of play we got out of Philadelphia's defense. They really held them to where they were to keep them in position.
I agree with that. And it really, even at the end of the game, could have easily have been a 4th interception on Jalen Hurts. The guy just dropped it, but it was thrown right to him. I mean, it was just a mess. Again, just like I said, the 49ers, do I think that they are going to drop? No. I still think these were a flukes of a game, but it exposed them and it made them seem less scary to other teams. And they now look beatable. It's just going to be, where do we capitalize on those weaknesses on where they build? But it'll be interesting to see, again, this weekend, they're playing Monday Night Football against a Dolphins team who puts up a lot of points. And you have Tua going against Jalen, who are old teammates, at Alabama, who Tua actually took his spot.
Yeah, we know that
so
one.
I think Jalen Hurts is going to come out not just to prove that it was a fluke last week, but he's going to try to prove that he should have never lost his position at Alabama.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't help but just think that that's got to be the back of both of their minds. So that'll be a big test, and the Eagles just have to learn how to close out games too. And that's going to be something really important taken into Miami, because once again, hats off to the Jets defense. Just like the Browns, these games were very similar. As poorly as San Francisco and Philadelphia played offensively, their defenses kept them in. But they also were in position to win the game. But the Jets wanted it more in this one. At halftime, they realized they're not out of it. They're down by a score. They wanted it. They came out and played the second half, taking that game. Philadelphia, all they had to do was get in the mentality of, hey, let's just put this one to bed. They could have done it. The opportunities were still there despite all of those missed opportunities. They just weren't feeling it, and it didn't happen. The Jets wanted it more, and the team that wants it more has proven time and again to be the one that prevails.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, I know Eagles are a little banged up. They were without, their Billy Turner and, their banged up injuries. But the difference between the 49ers and the Eagles was 49ers lost their main weapons. Eagles did not. They still had A.J. Brown. They still had Devontae Smith. Like, it was all, to me, I hate to always put the blame on the quarterback, but Jalen Hurts just could not find his rhythm. And that was the difference of that game.
Yep.
But like I said, I'm happy the Cowboys are at home. 2 big matchups. Their Eagles are, we'll see. We'll see if both of them are flukes or if they can bounce back. But I'm happy to watch stress-free this weekend and just see how it all plays out. Hopefully we come off the bye week and we're all tied up at the top of the division.
It could be possible.
Right. But there was a lot of other games this weekend. I just wanted to touch on the biggest upsets. And of course, we'll always talk about the Cowboys, especially when they win, because it makes me really happy. But I want to end with what I like to do with all my guests is the worst team from week 6 that you thought gave the worst performance out there.
Man, I had to think about this one because there's a few that I've just easily just grouped together, but I got to say Carolina Panthers. Okay, so you come out and you surprise the world against Miami right off the bat, go up 14-0. Who thought that would happen? People maybe like me were just going, hey, they really want this. Maybe they can get a win. They disappear after that and then just went back to all the stuff we saw and got just stomped. They're the only winless team in the league. They're still
must have left the game because he had the first 2 touchdowns. Something must happen to Thielen.
It's unexplainable. That's why I have to say it's the worst. It's like a magic show. What happened?
Right. Yeah, I wanted to say, Panthers, of course, definitely. I wanted to say the Giants just because of that disaster of time management that happened before the first half. I mean, to not have timeouts and the play call and just it just seems like the complete turmoil that's happening with the Giants. I mean, everyone's yelling at each other. It just looks like a hot mess up there. But who I think is hotter mess is Bill Belichick and his Patriots. I mean, Bill Belichick has to just be freaking out. He's not used to this. He's in, territory he's never been used to having. And they are just completely falling apart. I don't know if this is Belichick now just saying, hey, let's just tank the season so that I can get Caleb Williams to come in. Mac Jones, I mean, I had so much hope for him. I actually liked the way that he played, and I thought he played similar to Tom Brady in the past. So I thought that's why, Belichick was going to go after a young Tom Brady and form him into what was created, through Tom Brady. But Mac Jones is just going the complete opposite way. He looks like he lost his best friend on the sideline. I mean, it just looks pitiful. And they dropped 17-21 to Raiders, who are kind of streaming up, but still they're a hot mess too. And it just was not, I mean, there was a safety. It's ugly. That's all I can say. It is very ugly. So they make my worst of the week.
And I got to say, who in the last 2 decades would ever think that we would be having a conversation including the New England Patriots being the worst performance of the week? And actually probably the worst team in the league throughout right now, honestly. But I mean, Belichick's beside himself, but he recently came out and even said, like, the Patriots just need to start over.
They do.
That's probably a good plan right now because you can't keep working what worked for you in the past. Those players are gone. You got to regroup everything, reassess talent, start from scratch because right now, I mean, the funny thing is it almost looked like they could beat the Eagles right out of the gates.
Right.
Wish that could have happened, but it didn't. But after that, I mean, we've seen it all. I mean, they just fall apart. So, yeah, wow.
Crazy. I mean, and to give another Cowboy shout out, Ezekiel Elliott actually had a pretty good game as well. So, but it's bad when Zeke is your best player on the night.
Well, at this stage, yeah.
Yes, this stage of it. But all right, well, let's go to fans that might be a little bit happier on their week 6. Who do you think had the team that had the best performance of week 6?
Hands down, Detroit Lions. I'm telling you, they have been playing such great football this year. It's been fun to watch. And I'm sorry, unless you're a diehard Detroit fan, like Detroit games are usually like, oh, they're on, or they're the ones that play before Cowboys at the Thanksgiving game, You can't say that this year. And mind you, because of San Francisco and Philadelphia losing this week, they're tied for the best record in football. You can't deny it. So go Lions. Great performance this week and the last few, honestly. I have a feeling they're going to keep steamrolling.
Yeah, if we would have had a crystal ball looking into the future, like you said, you had Patriots as the worst and the Lions as your best of the week. Like, it's crazy.
It's like the Twilight Zone.
But me and you are in sync. I had to do the Lions too. I mean, no one is talking about them. I mean, if they do, it's like an afterthought. I mean, it's all Eagles and 49ers, and they are tied with the best record right now. Yep. They beat Kansas City. Like they are just steamrolling through these and they're doing it quietly, which is probably what is a good thing. They don't have the pressure or the spotlight on them. If I'm still looking in my crystal ball, there's a good chance that the NFC is going to have to run through Detroit to get to the Super Bowl this weekend. Goff is, remade. He is, we thought he was on his way out and now he is knocking on the door, putting up great numbers. They have St. Brown, Montgomery. They're just, all these players are just coming out of the woodwork. And they have a great coach leading him the culture is great there. So Detroit Lions are my sleeper, but they definitely out of the weekend had the best performance. Crazy.
Agreed.
Last though, so this is weeks 1 through 6. So everything that we've seen so far this NFL season. From both conferences combined, who are your top 5 after week 6 Super Bowl contenders going into week 7?
So, number 1, I've got San Francisco still. And as we said, you can't chop them down too much for one loss. If they get another one, then that's a totally different story. But because of the scenario and everything, I mean, I still think they're so dangerous. So I still think that they're number one. Number two, I'm going to have Kansas City. It hasn't been as glamorous or flashy as it's been in the past. I mean, it doesn't have Tyreek Hill, who's moved on to a different team where he's doing great. But, Mahomes hasn't been like, setting records this year, but they're winning. So ever since, Detroit knocked them off right to start the season, but after that, they've been fine. So they find ways to win when they win by a pretty good margin too. So 2 for Kansas City. I'm going to have to keep the Eagles at 3 for now. This is a tough one for me, but same thing with San Francisco. They had a bad game. They just lost once, so you can't really knock them too hard on that. Their future play will decide how they stay on that, just like everyone, but I'm not going to drop them out of the 5 yet. Next would be where Tyreek Hill landed in Miami. Miami has been impressive. They're still impressing. I mean, you saw they came back from a 14-0 deficit to Carolina, despite Carolina's best efforts. And, I mean, they capitalized on it. I mean, Miami's been rocking it. And then the 5 was so hard because I swear these are neck and neck. It's hard to pick. I don't know if I'm allowed to do a tie. I can pick one, but I would say Buffalo and Detroit right there. It's just – I almost want to say Detroit because what we just talked about, they're so good. But like Buffalo, when they win, like they smoked Miami. I mean, that was like not even a chance. And like, it's just, but they also have those games where it's like, or like the one they lost to the Jets, even when Aaron Rodgers had like a snap, So, okay. I mean, you just never know. They're kind of tied. I'd say Buffalo right now, if I had to pick one, just because of the method in which they win. But I swear the Lions are right there in the hunt. So just had to give them that special prop. Who knows? They might be way up there even further, like for me next week.
So I like your picks, but you're going to be shocked because my number one, I didn't have any question. I'm putting the Lions at number one.
There it is. Number one.
I mean, they have the best record they're tied, but they have the best record in the NFL. They've been the most consistent. They haven't really faltered. I mean, they are playing, they are growing. I think they deserve to be the number one spot after 6 weeks. I mean, they're the team that nobody's talking about, but should talk about because they have all the ingredients. They're staying healthy. And Goff is just proving to be the Goff from his like rookie years. Like he's just playing out of his mind and he's got so many complementary players around him that now it's fluid. It is fluid. But right now I am giving the notch to the Eagles. Second is the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, they looked a little rocky in the beginning, but you have Patrick Mahomes. They're sailing right now. Things are starting to happen. And even if he doesn't have the personnel around him, Mahomes makes plays. Mahomes finds a way to win, and he continues to do that. You can't not have, when they're winning right now, you can't have the Super Bowl, last year's Super Bowl champions not in your top 5. So they take my number 2. I dropped 3 to the 49ers. They were number 1 for me last week, but I think a lot is going to play into what these injuries play out to be this week. I think Purdy is now human, and now that he's come down off of cloud 9, will he be able to rise back up? But I still think that they're contenders. We're going to see them in the postseason. I still think that they have everything it takes to make a Super Bowl run, but they did come down to 3 for me. 4, same thing, Eagles. Was this a fluke game or was this, something that is going to be, start a pattern with them? We'll see how it goes, but they're still there. They're still tied with the best record in NFL, so they're going to stay in my top 4. 5, I had a tie, but it's funny. I took Dolphins out this week. I don't know why. I know that they're still good, but the Bills beat the Dolphins, so that's why I put them ahead of them right now. But I tied them because I had a tie in my 5th too because it's so close with the Bengals. I mean, Joe Burrow is back. Joe Burrow looks like Joe Burrow. Things are starting to shift in Cincinnati, and I think they're about to go on a huge run. I mean, they have all the weapons. They know how to get places. People were counting them out because they dug a hole. They are slowly digging themselves out, and they are consistently in the past 2 weeks looking like Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, I got to say, isn't it funny? When you go back to when you and I first talked on week 2, Look at how it's changed in 4 weeks, because we were concerned for the future. We didn't even know if he'd return the next game. I mean, and when he did, it wasn't glamorous overnight, but you're right. Wow, it's the Bengals are back. And it goes back to our point that we were making. The Bengals need a functioning Joe Burrow to be where they were or where they want to even be. So it's cool. I like the fact that it's happening. Good for Joe. Hopefully get some of that flack off of him for that contract extension too, because I mean, it all happened in tandem. So yeah, interesting pick. I like it.
And that's crazy though. I don't know where Bengal went from limping in a fourth quarter to playing 100% Joe Burrow. Like, what magic juice did he drink from one game to the next? But
he must have been with a San Francisco recruiter or something.
Right.
Same magic.
But I mean, he's looking like it. And now Jamar Chase is back, and they're finding that connection. I think Bengals are on my watch list for sure about making
absolutely.
a run.
Cool.
Well, that's all we have today. I mean, thank you so much for coming out, Sean. I appreciate you being my first guest on my video. We will still have the audio going as well if you just want to listen to the audio of this. And obviously this will be uploaded on YouTube. So thank you for tuning in. And I will be back next week on Thursday to give you my breakdown of week 7. Until then, your girl and her brother are signing off.